Guest this morning in studio is a man that is truly remarkable. That is Mr. Rodgers Musuma, who's a program officer at Disability Rights Watch, also known as DRW. Welcome to the show.
Thank you very much, and I'm happy to be here.
We're glad that you could join us. Let's start with the enactment of Bill number 7. How would you describe it specifically, especially for those who, or for people with disabilities, getting a specific number?
Thank you very much. That's a very important point to start from. The fact that we are heading toward the 2026 general election. The enactment of Bill 7, or now Act number 13 of 2025, brings a lot of hope for us in the disability movement, in that the bill brings guaranteed seat for persons with disabilities and also other marginalized groups such as women and youths. So if you look in the past years, the participation of persons with disabilities in the National Assembly, I think history has it that we have never had more than 3 people in the National Assembly. So with the Act number 13 of 2025, we are guaranteed that at least 5 persons with disabilities will be there representing the interests of persons with disabilities. So this is something that we are very happy that as a nation we have, because now democracy will be seen to be more inclusive compared to the past years.
Okay, and actually just to take you back a little bit more, I would say, for all of those who are hearing about your organization for the first time, can you describe what Disability Rights Watch is, actually?
Yeah, that's very important. Disability Rights Watch is a disability service organization that is established to advocate for the rights of persons with disabilities. The organization was established in 2011, and under the PACRA, and also in 2015 under Persons with Disabilities Act. The main core values and core programs of the organization is capacity building for organizations, other organizations. That could be organizations of persons with disabilities and organizations of those without disabilities. We also build the capacity of persons with disabilities themselves to be able to advocate for their rights. I think in many cases we have not given persons with disabilities the opportunity to speak for themselves. So as an organization, we do build their capacity so that they can be able to speak for themselves. We also conduct access audit with Zambia Agents for Persons with Disabilities, just to assess the accessibility of infrastructure in the country. And once that is done, we do make recommendations that institutions can follow to actually provide accessibility to persons with disabilities.
So what would you describe as the biggest challenge differently abled persons are currently facing in Zambia?
Okay, so the first thing that we need to start with is actually the attitude of the general public. When you see a person with a disability, others, they already conclude that this is a person who cannot do anything. So the biggest challenge is actually the attitude. And once that is worked around, you will find that persons with disabilities will be able to participate on an equal basis with others. And when the attitude is changed, you find that it creates room for things that, or barriers that are created by society. For instance, when buildings are being built, when you have a right attitude toward disability, you already factor in the aspect of accessibility. When laws are being enacted, laws are being developed, when the attitude is already positive, you will make sure that the laws that are being enacted, the policies that are being put in place, respond to the needs of persons with disabilities. So the biggest challenge that we need to work around is the issue of attitude.
All right. Now, how would you assess Zambia's progress in promoting disability rights, seeing as you are the program officer at Disability Rights Watch, DRW?
Yeah, so As a country, I think we are making progress toward disability inclusion in that when you look at the past years and where we are now, maybe the fact that we are speaking about political participation of persons with disabilities, when you compare the 2021 elections and those that came before that, participation of persons with disabilities in the electoral processes was very low, but now we are seeing a steady increase and also interest among persons with disabilities. And one interesting thing that we are seeing is that the country is beginning to open up in terms of ensuring that the policies are put in place, the laws are put in place to guarantee the participation of persons with disabilities. We are talking about Act number 13 of 2025, which is one of the laws that the country has put in place to ensure that persons with disabilities are not left behind, and this is a positive move toward ensuring that democracy is representative.
So then what would you say, because we have heard some sentiments from others saying that when it comes to this particular act, yes, of course, there is representation, but they feel it's tokenistic. Would you agree, especially even for those with disabilities?
Well, the law is yet to be tested. For now, we can speculate. But no, it's tokenism, but until after the law has been implemented, then we can conclude to say actually this is not helping the intended people. For now, I think we can only hope that right things will be done, and through engagements, we should be able to ensure that the law actually responds to what it is providing for.
And would you say organizations such as yours, were they engaged before this particular act, I guess, was enacted, as they were collecting data to see how best those with disabilities can be represented?
Yes, actually, the disability movement and disability rights watch, to be specific, we participated in the process, and I must say that we were consulted, or we made submissions to the process, and we feel that not all our submissions were considered, but some of our submissions were considered, which is a plus to us, because one of the things that we've been advocating for is an increase in terms of representation of persons with disabilities in Parliament, and we have seen an increase from 0 per se to 5 as guaranteed seats. We know that the first past the post, electoral system has been a challenge for persons with disabilities, because that one requires a lot of money. So with this act in place, we know that persons with disabilities will be able to at least have a voice in Parliament.
Okay. And then now, looking at the fact that we are within an election year, would you say that over the years and even gearing up to these elections, are those with disabilities given enough resources to actually enable them to campaign adequately, to speak to their electorate?
Yeah, so one thing that we should also take note of is that one of the biggest challenge that has caused persons with disabilities not to participate well in the past elections because of resources. And then the question that we ask ourselves is that who should give a person with disability resources, or who should give a politician resources? In most cases, those politicians, they find their own resources. And persons with disabilities, most of them are not running, businesses, are not in employment, and per se, if they are, you find that their income is not that much. So you may find that they may not even have a saving toward election. But with this bill in place, this is something that is, with the law in place, this is something that is positive, and which we should support. And also, when persons with disabilities have the right, capacity, they should be able to advocate when in Parliament that actually there must be funding for political parties that have marginalized, persons in their parties, so that part of those resources should be able to help marginalized groups.
And how would you say that political parties have responded to this development? And would you say that you have agreed on a proportional representation coming from your organization?
Yeah, so let me start by saying that as an organization, we have been running a program that we are calling Disability Inclusive Political Participation. And under this program, we have been building the capacity of persons with disabilities. We have been building the capacity of political parties. And we have been working with at least 8 political parties. And these 8 political parties have shown a strong political will toward disability inclusion, and of course toward the enactment of Bill 10 or Bill 7, there were a lot of mixed feelings, but now we can no longer discuss about it in terms of its enactment, but we can talk about how do we ensure that the provisions are well implemented. And whether political parties like it or not, under this law, a political party that would want to get something under proportional representation, it's a must that they must have at least the marginalized groups as nominated candidate under proportional representation, unless if a party does not want to have a seat under proportional representation. Of course, this is not mandatory that each political party must, those that wants to get a seat there, are required to submit those names. And with the positive response that we are getting from them, especially those that we are working with, we have an assurance that persons with disabilities will be listed on the party list.
All right. And you can be part of the conversation. The phone lines are open. The numbers are 0955 997 997 or 0979 192 485 or 0961 690 487. We are joined in the studio by Mr. Rodgers Musuma, Program Officer at Disability Rights Watch, a leading organization advocating for rights, inclusion and dignity of persons with disabilities in Zambia or differently abled persons. Now, Disability Rights Watch has been at the forefront of monitoring human rights violations, pushing for policy reforms and ensuring that persons with disabilities are not left behind. We do have a caller on the line. Hello, good morning.
You are speaking with Chilando.
Mr. Chilando, how are you doing this morning?
I'm good. I guess I'm better than you.
That's great to hear.
Mr. Musuma, morning.
Good morning, Mr. Chilando. How are you?
I'm good. From the outset, I have to mention that I'm Chilando and I'm somebody who is visually impaired.
Okay.
For sure. So, Mr. Musuma, for sure, if we are to realize and empower Zambia's better future, which offers a mutual beneficiation to all of its citizenry, I think there is a need to pioneer policy responses and practical solutions that are inclusive in nature. Because understandably so, the demographic grouping of persons with disabilities throughout the course of human history has been highly disadvantaged and underprivileged. So there is need, is my thinking, to say before we can run to allowing persons with disabilities participating in political life, at least there have to be enough safeguards to allow them to participate in public life by allowing them maybe to also have access to tertiary institutions and pursue programs of their choices. And I would also like you to educate me on how these safeties will be distributed. I know that as persons with disabilities in the current act of the Constitution we have been offered 5 spaces, but how will be the selection process exact? And also lastly, I've heard to say organization does capacity building to us persons with disabilities. How can somebody be part of that organization, and how is it, what does it take for you to select persons with disabilities who are interested? And I must make it to say I'm one of them who want to be capacitated in that area. Otherwise, it's nice topic that you have brought forth, Shekinah and Fortrace, and I'm still listening. I'm always with you. Thanks very much, dude.
Thank you very much. We do appreciate your sentiments. All right, so what would you respond to those sentiments?
Yeah, first, thank you so much, Mr. Chilanda, for following the program. I'll start from the last question in terms of how you can be part of. So we have different programs that we are running as an organization, and the program that we are talking to this today is around political participation. So the first thing that we look at as we bring people on board is the interest that they have to take part in political processes. And we have been running this in Lusaka and Mansa. So most persons with disabilities that are based in Lusaka and those that are based in Mansa that have interest in political participation have been part of the program. But those that are outside this district, there's a way that we can also collaborate in terms of how we can ensure that we support you in terms of capacity. I know in some cases people may expect financial support. I must be quick to mention that at the moment we are not giving any financial support to persons with disabilities that would want to contest, but we are able to build their capacity, able to mentor them so that they can be able to work around their political journey. The safeguards and how these seats will be distributed, and if you have been following the current electoral process bill, I think has provided how the seats will be distributed. So the proportional representation seats will be given to political parties that will be participating at presidential level. And the presidential results will be used to distribute these seats. So what that means is that the persons with disabilities must align themselves to political parties of their choice to be able to actually be listed on those party lists. So in terms of how these political parties should list the marginalized groups, they should list them according to their priority. The one that they would want to give a seat first should be listed on top. And it goes like that. So a person with a disability will be listed, let's say for under Part A. We have, let's say, two parties that have been given seats. So the first party will be able to get, let's say, 2 or 3 seats. So how the political party listed the persons with disability or marginalized groups, that's how they will receive the seats. So a party A that receives 3 seats, it means that the first 3 on the list will be given those, or will be, will receive the seats. And the same applies to the second part. The first 2 on the list, they are the ones to be actually receive those seats. So what is key now is that political persons with disabilities should join political parties of their choice so that they stand a chance to be listed. I think one thing that we are calling to political parties that as they list these marginalized groups, there must be transparency, and also there must be fairness so that there are no issues of, let's say, discrimination, because this person, doesn't have finances and the like, but this person has the knowledge and understanding of disability issues. And then because of the financial limitation, the party decides to say, no, we will leave you out, and they bring someone who has no interest on disability, but this person has a disability. So our call is that let's first prioritize those that have interest around championing disability rights, disability issues, so that when they are in Parliament, they should be able to speak around disability issues.
Would you say that so far there have been differently able persons who have come forward declaring their interest to participate in political issues? Yes.
Actually, under our program, we have those that I can confirm now. We have about 19 persons with disabilities that are aspiring to contest under the coming elections. And these actually aspired before the enactment of Bill 7. We just pray that these will be among those that will be prioritized in terms of listing under a political party list.
We do have a caller on the line. Okay. Hello, good morning.
But Mr. Musuma, What I wanted to know on the last question of capacity building, we see, we persons with disabilities, we have been hearing of these organizations of ours that champion our rights. So I wanted you to be specific. How can somebody like me who wants to be capacity built access your organization, or where are you located? Where are you conducting these programs from? That's what I wanted to know.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Chilando, for coming to.
Thank you, Mr. Chilando, for that. I think I had mentioned, but I will repeat. The current program is running in Lusaka and Mansa. So most of the persons with disabilities that we're working with are those that are based in Lusaka and Mansa. Then in terms of our physical location, we're in Woodlands along Elm Road. Plot 37, just near where they are constructing the National House of Prayer. Yeah.
And for those that would like to call you, those who are listening right now, where can they reach your organization?
So we have a very active Facebook page. That's a first point of contact. If you're on Facebook, you can follow Disability Rights Watch. You can send your messages, and we'll be able to get back to you. And I think I should be able to share our number before we end the program, so that those that would want to reach us direct can reach on our company line. And those that are specifically interested to participate in political participation processes, I will share my personal number so that we can see how we can work around that.
Okay, and talking of political participation, I'd say especially as the conversation around Bill 7 now, Act number 13 was being discussed, or rather was growing, what we did have when it comes to political structures is, do they really truly invest within women's groups, under or other women's wings within their structures? But is there, or rather would you say so far in Zambia, the political parties actually invest in having wings that are dedicated to persons with disabilities?
Yeah, one of the things that we've been pushing under the program is to ensure that political parties have a wing, or at least a committee that champions disability issues within the party. And I must confirm that the 8 political parties that we're working with, if you allow me later on to mention their names, please let me know. They have adopted what we are calling disability inclusion plans. These plans are a blueprint that guide them in terms of how they should include persons with disabilities. And one of the commitment in the disability inclusion plan is setting up or establishing a disability wing or a disability committee. And from our interaction with them, what we have seen is that most of the political parties have preferred to put committees in place, because some of them currently may not have persons with disabilities that should handle in terms of specific issues around disability, but they have people that we have trained and have now a clear understanding of disability issues, and they would want to champion disability issues. So by setting up disability committees, basically they have let's say a committee that brings to the attention of the leadership in terms of disability issues what must be done to ensure that disabilities and persons with disabilities or disability issues are not left behind. So those 8, they have either a committee or a wing.
Okay, and I would say also, aside from that, when it comes to governance issues, usually we see persons with disabilities spoken about in a manner of, we've donated this, we've helped by giving X, Y, Z, but is there really, when it comes to either be it within civil societies, even within government institutions, is there really, are persons with disabilities actually included? Are there jobs that specifically cater to those with disabilities or persons with disabilities to ensure that they're actually involved and not just donated to?
Yeah, thank you very much. Let me actually start by saying disability has been viewed in different forms, and one of the forms that disability has been viewed is under charity, and that's why we see so many donations taking place, because most people see disability as a charity issue. But I think our core has been that let us begin to see disability as a human rights issue, so that what we do to them, we're not doing it out of charity, out of pity, but out of recognizing that they are human beings that are entitled to the same rights that those without disabilities are entitled to. So as a country, I think through the Persons with Disabilities Act, one of the things that has been pushed for is that as government is employing, there must be a reservation of, let's say, 10% of job opportunities for persons with disabilities, and we have seen that being implemented under Ministry of Health, under Ministry of Education. And our call is that we need to also ensure that all other ministries should be able to reserve seats for or jobs for persons with disabilities. And in the absence of persons with disability, at least there must be a focal point person that is able to champion disability issues around that. And this also goes to the private sector. They should also begin to reserve seats for persons with disabilities. We have seen, I think, Pick and Pay is doing quite well around that. There are so many persons with disabilities that have been employed under Pick and Pay, and other institutions, other private companies can learn from that. And we are available to partner with them and link them to persons with disabilities that are interested to work.
All right. Well, you can be part of the conversation by coming through on 0979-192485 or 0955-997-997 or 0961-690-487. We're joined in the studio by Mr. Rodgers Musuma, the Programs Officer at Disability Rights Watch. Now, given that Parliament or the National Assembly is not considered disability friendly, I might add, in terms of the infrastructure, what steps are you taking as an organization to make sure that this infrastructure is fully inclusive, knowing that the Act number 13 will be enacted and we might see persons living with disabilities start attending and or be voted to be part of the National Assembly in the future?
Thank you very much, Fortrace, for that question. I think as an organization, we have been working with Zambia Agents for Persons with Disabilities. In 2024, we conducted an access audit for Parliament building, and we made recommendations to that effect that must be followed, ensuring that the National Assembly is made accessible to all persons. And I must confirm that through one of our structures, that is a technical working group on disability inclusion, where we have a caucus on disability and a caucus for women being part of, they have confirmed to us that actually by the time that Parliament will be open with the new members with disabilities, it will be accessible, and they are now working around that to ensure that Parliament will be ready by the time we'll be having elections to receive persons with disabilities and many others.
And also looking at the standing committee, there are various sections in the National Assembly, but also, unfortunately, none focus on disability issues. How do you perceive this?
Yeah, I think disability this time around it is receiving attention. 3 years ago we didn't have a caucus, a parliamentary caucus on disability at the National Assembly. But go there today, you find that there is a parliamentary caucus around disability. It will be good that as we go on, we have a standing committee specifically on disability, and this is one of our advocacy issues, that now that we have a disability or parliamentary caucus on disability, it's just right that disability being a cross-cutting issue, it is also given much attention by putting in place a standing committee to that effect. So this is an advocacy issue that as a disability movement we are advocating for, and we are also calling other institutions that they join us as we advocate for that.
Okay. This is once again Voice of the People, and today we are joined by Mr. Rodgers Musuma as the Programs Officer at Disability Rights Watch. It's a leading organization advocating for the rights, inclusion, and dignity of persons with disabilities in Zambia. And now, continuing our conversation a little bit more, looking as to, let's say, for example, Fortrace and I, we don't necessarily, or rather, we would not be labeled as persons with disabilities, but how can we still join the fight to ensure that those who are persons with disabilities actually catered for when it comes to the workplace, in the home, in school, and in just daily life? What can we do?
Yeah, thank you. When it comes to that, one thing that I always remind people is that when you look at people with disabilities, they do not have their own community. Let's say they stay in this particular area as persons with disabilities. They come from the communities where we are coming from. And some of these persons with disabilities are our relatives. You know, so it's just right that as a person who either related by blood or by geographical location, we advocate for persons with disabilities. A disability is something that people tend to ignore in terms of giving attention without actually realizing that it can happen to anyone at any time. No one actually applies to have a disability, but this time around we see people being involved in road accidents. Those that survive, they will not be the same. Some, they tend to lose their legs, their hands, and they become people with disabilities. Now, if you're a person that has been, showing a negative attitude around persons with disability, it will be very difficult for you to fit in the community, because at the starting point, you do not embrace persons with disabilities. And because of that, you feel people will not accept you. So the next thing that we see you doing is confine yourself in a room where people, they stop even seeing you. But we are saying that let us embrace disability now. You don't need to have a disability to talk about disability. This is just in our Ubuntu. Let us embrace one another and speak for one another, and create that environment where any person can feel free to participate, can feel free to be part of. And that doesn't require one to have a disability, but that just a heart, a positive, heart toward inclusion.
Can they possibly join organizations such as yours if they'd like to contribute?
They can, but I must quickly to mention that Disability Rights Watch is not a membership organization, but there are membership organizations where they can join. So there is no harm that they can reach out to us, and we can refer them to such organizations where they can become members.
All right. Now, ranting on the Constituency Development Fund, would we say that empowerment programs like CDF, persons living with disabilities, are benefiting from that?
I must say that yes, persons with disabilities are benefiting from that, but the benefit are not 100%. Where let's say 10 people or 10 organizations of persons with disabilities apply for a CDF empowerment and they all receive. That is not the case. But at least something is being received to those organizations. And one thing that we have also noted is that some organizations for persons with disabilities that may not have received funds, maybe it could be the proposal was not well aligned, and we do help them in terms of capacity to be able to submit, competing proposals, because it's not just a matter of giving someone money because he is a person with disability. We also need to ensure that they're able to put that empowerment to good use and be able to generate something out of that. One thing that we are pushing under the human rights-based approach is that we reduce on the dependence. People with disabilities should be able to provide for themselves, and they can only do so if they have the capacity to actually be able to generate more income. And we advise that as they apply for funding, that funding should not end up in their, for food, but should end up in projects that will be able to generate more money. Yeah.
And I remember when the Constitution was being amended, one of the concerns that was being raised is that the same Constitution is not in Braille, and there's so much we can do to make sure that persons living with disabilities are advocated for. How are you pushing for that to happen, so that we also have the Constitution of Zambia in Braille?
Yeah, so when we talk about accessibility and specifically speaking to the new laws and the other laws that need to be translated in Braille, this is something that the government should take deliberate, ensuring that information is provided to all, including persons who are visually impaired. And under the Access to Information Act, one of the things that is guaranteed there is access to information. And if information is not provided in accessible format, it means that some people are being left out. And also, I think we should begin to embrace the fact that we are now in a digital world. There's no harm in ensuring that the Constitution or other laws are, translated into audio. Because persons with disability can still follow audio, or those that are, visually impaired, they can hear. Like, for instance, Mr. Chilandu is visually impaired, and he's following and he's able to contribute because he's able to hear us. So if such documents like the Constitution, the electoral laws are also put in audio and shared to persons with disabilities, it becomes easier. It's cheaper to do audio than to do Braille. So in the case where we have very limited resources and the disabilities may not be a priority, let us embrace cost-effective measures in responding and ensuring that we give information to persons with disabilities.
There is a certain protocol. It's called the African Disability Protocol. Can you just run us through what exactly it entails and its potential significance for Zambia if ratified?
Yeah, so African Disability Protocol, this is a regional, human rights charter for Africa. So to start with, Zambia is a signatory to the United Nations Convention on the Rights of Persons with Disabilities, which is an international framework, that promotes disability rights. But again, we are saying it's good to have the UNCRPD in place, but we need to have also the regional, human rights charter, which we are calling African Disability Protocol, because this one now brings in the aspect of the, African experience. Whereas we look at the international level, what are we experiencing as Africa, and what can we do together? And this law helps us to actually respond to the actual needs of African and also Africa with Africans with disability, and specifically Zambians with disabilities. So this is a document that I think Zambia needs to ratify because it also supports the international framework, which is the UNCRPD. And once we have that in place, it should be able to give us the real-life experience in terms of the Africa context.
And where exactly now does Zambia stand in the process of ratifying this particular protocol?
So I must just mention that there is a political will. From our last engagement in 2025, we had an assurance that this is something that will be brought before Parliament closes. So we still pray that that will be the case. As we are nearing the dissolution of Parliament, we hope this will not be forgotten. But if it's happening to be forgotten, we will not stop there. We will continue advocating until this is put in place. But there is a political will, and because of the parliamentary caucus on disability, we have seen political members of parliament, championing this, and we hope that we don't lose the course that we are already in if we proceed in that way. But I think one thing that I should also continue calling is that let us work together, the media houses and other stakeholders in calling for such instruments.
Now, riding on the same trajectory, what policies would you love implemented, something that will help persons with disability and also your advocacy?
Yeah, so in 2025, Zambia actually, released a new disability policy that pushes for proper coordinations among government institutions and also among stakeholders. And we want that should not only end in paper, but also we begin to see implementation. How do we ensure that the Ministry of Health properly coordinate with the Ministry of Education and these other ministry. We are talking about, let's say, polling stations where polling stations that are being used, schools that are built by government, and this time around these schools, they receive funding under CDF. So how do we ensure that we coordinate these processes to ensure that whereas schools are receiving funding, those fundings should be able to provide for accessibility, so that when ECZ put in place or select a polling station, that station is already accessible. Because when we do that, then it becomes easy. We stop calling ECZ, you need to provide this and that. When we are already coordinated, it becomes easy, and we have this policy in place. We pray that it will be implemented. We have the new bill, the new act, that guarantees at least 5 seats for persons with disability or 40 for the marginalized. Let us ensure that as political parties are nominating persons with disability or marginalized groups, we don't end up nominating their relatives, but nominating people that are able to respond to the needs of marginalized. We understand that these are going under political parties, but the most important thing is representing the interest of the groups that they are representing. Whereas the vehicle that